What's going on here? Mr. Kamara, are you there? I'm just going to open this question up to anybody on the panel. Why
thank you. It's really honored to be here. Why are we saying the hesitancy? I wish I and all of my colleagues, professional colleagues on this forum could give a definitive response as to why the hesitancy. We do not know definitively. We can say is that many variables that are contributing to vaccine hesitancy, from fear of the vaccine itself to misinformation to just individuals not being ready to take the vaccine, in having perhaps had COVID before and therefore believe that he or she now has natural immunity, to others that believe in herd immunity, and to many others who are still waiting and maybe questioning the science, maybe waiting for another thing that has a higher percentage of efficacy, that like they may be more 100 proof, for lack of a better description, that says if there is 100% surety that if I take this vaccine today, I am never ever going to get COVID. So I do not think anyone can respond to the many whys, but we do know that there is a lot of hesitancy in our community, in the United States, in the world. That being said, our focus is working within the immigrant community and attempting to explore why the hesitancies and to encourage our people to be open, the benefits of the vaccine, and hopefully take the vaccine.
Thank you, Mrs. Kamara. You just kind of glazed over some of the variables, but I'm going to open this question up to all the other panelists. What are some fears in regards to taking the vaccine? Like, what have you guys been hearing from some of your, how would you call them, from people, I guess you would say, or from viewers? What are they saying in regards to their fear about taking the vaccine? Is it because they believe that it's not effective? Do they believe that it might cause some underlying disease? What are some of the fears that are actually causing people not to take the vaccine?
This is Mrs. Hunter, Lrtn Hunter from MCFS. One thing we have come up against is the fear that the vaccine was done, gotten a little bit too hastily. So people are a little bit wary of how fast it was produced, even though we know that scientifically, because we do have professionals from within the medical community who have given us assurance that every step that needed to be followed was in place. But we still do have hesitancy around how fast the vaccine was obtained or gotten, where all the parameters that needed to be followed where they followed, and then just downright fear tactics from social media and people just being afraid. We had a situation where someone said, oh, a friend of mine got the illness, and the next thing we looked, they had a swollen neck. That made them afraid. It could have just been a coincidence that it happened. So, those are some of the things, and I'll let my other panelists speak to that subject.
This is Pastor Lende, Rising Up for Change. Some of the reasons, underlying factors for the vaccine hesitancy, speaking from a personal perspective and maybe from religious perspective, a lot of people believe that this is one of the fulfillment of the scripture that talk about during the end time there will be mark that will be given to people, and so they believe, a lot of people believe that at this time this vaccine in fact contain microchip, and so like having the taking the vaccine means you are part of, is somehow developed or is connected to uh, the signs of the end time. And so people from the religious perspective have been very hesitant to taking the vaccine because of this. And so we want to make sure we clear up that myth, and we want to class that as a myth. This is in no way linking biblically, and I'm speaking a little bit authoritative here because also I have some background biblically. So this vaccine does not have any kind of biblical lineage to say that it's a microchip. No, instead, this is purely as any other vaccine that scientists have developed over the period to cure diseases. If we took a look at, for example, polio, if we look at the flu that took place where people die a lot. So this vaccine is just like any other vaccine that scientists have developed over the period. And so it's important we make that point very clear tonight, that anyone listening to us tonight, if you're a Christian, a believer from religious perspective, this vaccine does not have any link to any end time prophecies that are written, for example, in the Bible. And so the ingredients that are involved in these vaccines are those that will be able to help our body prevent the COVID-19. So therefore, it's important that we take the vaccines, and we should be able to deal away with the myth that we hear around that this is about the end time. This vaccine is not about the end time. This is about our health, and it's important that we deal with it by taking it so that our families, ourselves, and even the various places of worship that we can go to can be safe, and we all can continue to live in the community. Thank you.
Hi,
Yeah,
everyone.
hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Yasa in Labla. I'm from the All Liberian Diaspora Women Organization, ALJA for short. So, some of the challenges we've had to deal with when it comes to the vaccine hesitancy in the field, we've had different myths and different beliefs. But talking to some women of late, some of them have concerns that the vaccine is actually uh, um, uh, having impact on their menstrual cycle. So some of them said the vaccine is causing them to bleed heavily. Some of them said they took the vaccine, and since they took the vaccine, their period came heavily and it's still coming heavily. They are bleeding, they've been bleeding. Some of them said their period lasted 4 days usually, but then after the vaccine, they had like 7 days, 8 days period and very heavy downpour of their menstruation. That those are some of the things we've been hearing from some women. And then on the overall, people are also afraid that their kids might get very sick when they take the vaccine. So they are actually hesitant as to whether their children should take the vaccine. And one of the things that we notice in our community, our African community locally, there's this lack of information around the whole vaccine thing, because some of our people, they don't really understand how the whole vaccine thing works, how a vaccine is being how a vaccine is manufactured and everything. So when you tell them about it, they say we don't even know what is that, we don't want to take it. They don't have they are not aware about the whole vaccine thing. So at the end of the day, a lot of them they are just reluctant to even take the vaccine. And plus the different myths surrounding the vaccine, as the Reverend was just saying. Some people have religious reasons why they are not taking it. Some people have tradition, just different reasons why they are not taking it. But on the overall, religious reason is really one of the things. And of late, the issue about menstruation coming about having like irregular or heavy pool of menstruation of late. Yeah, so those are some of the things that we've been seeing. And I'm sorry that I came late. Thank you.
Better late than never.
Hello, this is Don Dennis.
Good evening, Mr. Dennis.
Yeah, and hi, how are you? My name is Don Kapaya Dennis. I'm the national president of the United Nema Citizen Council here in the Americas. And for me personally, and for the community that I serve, some reasons why the vaccine hesitancy came about is based on the reaction of family members who took the vaccine before them in the home. For me, for example, my elder brother took the vaccine before me, and he ended up in the hospital in the ER. The reaction to the vaccine, but at that time I didn't know the reason why he ended up in the vaccine in the emergency room. But later on, I got to know that he has some underlying factors. So after that, and after observing other reaction of other family members, I got my mother to take the vaccine, and she had no reaction. So I decided to take it together with my wife, and we did. We both took it, got our second shots with no reaction. So now we were able to explain to our kids some of the expectations, what to expect when they take the vaccine, which is the headache and the fever for 1 or 2 days, the sore arm for 1 or 2 days. So that helped. But in the beginning, I was one of those who actually were in that stage of hesitancy because I didn't want to take the vaccine, and based on the reaction of my brother to the vaccine, at the time. But the vaccine, based on science, and let me go back to, we have Dr. Divine, who's also the one of the director or coordinator for this vaccine project. When we had a Zoom meeting, and they explained the expectation, what would happen, and how long the headache and the fever were going to last before it went away. And from there too, I started to get more interested in the vaccine, just from hearing from someone in our community, a medical professional person from our community, a Liberian person, a female medical doctor, telling us that yes, it is. That actually to take the vaccine. So those are some of the reasons why people were hesitant to take the vaccine, because somebody in their family reacted to the vaccine.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. Before we go on, I would like to ask you guys, because Mr. Dennis just brought up something very, very important, that people are kind of looking to the reactions of family members or those close to them to see, as a deciding factor on whether or not they should take the vaccine or not. I would like to ask you guys, what promoted you guys, or what kind of gave you guys the okay or the idea to go get the vaccine, that the vaccine was okay for you to take? What initiated the thought of taking the vaccine?
Yeah, it's me again. I want to come in there. For me, one reason that got me encouraged to take the vaccine is that to have a medical doctor from Liberia in our midst, somebody that we all look up to, come and appear on a Zoom meeting and say to you that based on science, that the vaccine is safe, that we should take it. And she took it herself, and she told us the side effect. That actually prompted me. And seeing that my brother, and when she explained that, and she said 1 or 2 days, and that was the case of my brother. He took it, he fell sick, went to the hospital. The next day he came home and he went to work. You see that? So that actually is, encouragement to say, you know what, I think the side effect and what Dr. Divine said is true. So I'm going to go ahead and take the vaccine.
Yeah.
So testimonials from people that you trust is what pushed you to go that route.
Yes.
This is Dr. Divine, and I agree with Mr. Don Dennis and Lopu, Ms. Howard, about the reasons. I find that in the African American, I thought I found more hesitancy among the African Americans. And because of their past experience, I think most of us here are familiar with the Tuskegee experiment that it did against African Americans. And that's why their hesitancy is even greater, I find, than in the immigrant. About only 74% of African Americans have not taken the vaccine. they're the lowest population that have not. The Asians are the first. They have like 65% of Asians. The next group, I think, is white Americans, 47%, and then the African Americans are the lowest. Unfortunately, we do not know what percent of our immigrant population. We have had a lot of success at multicultural community family services with our elders population. I think all of our elders have taken the vaccine, and that is very good. And one of the things I think that we have done in educating our elders is telling them, like Mr. Dan Dennis said, they're anticipating side effects. When you take it, there's a possibility you will have chills, you will have fever, you will have these things. And so when they know that, oh, we were already informed that these things could happen to us, and so that's one of the things about addressing it, telling them ahead of time, so that they wouldn't say that this is a normal reaction to a foreign body coming into you. These side effects possibly, even very few are severe enough to take you to the emergency room. So the other problem with what Ms. Aisha said, and that's the problem with the vaccine, like people saying that almost every day somebody has a heart attack. Almost every day somebody has a seizure. Somebody have change in their menstrual cycle. That's a normal thing. And so it could, most of the time, it's just a coincidence that it happened after the vaccine. If she did not take that vaccine, it would have still happened. So we need to tell people that a lot of things happen to you. You get headaches, so it may be very unrelated to the vaccine. And
Yes.
from the immigrant population, especially among the professionals, the immigrant nurses, those who hesitated, one of the reasons they gave is a reason that Ms. Hunter also said, that the vaccine was created too fast. They needed more time. So that's one of the greatest hesitancy excuse that I found among our immigrant, especially professional healthcare workers.
Thank you. Dr. Devine, I would like to just step in here just to ask you a specific question. A lot of the symptoms that you name are symptoms that you can also get from other vaccine, like, for example, the influenza vaccine.
Yes.
Some of the symptoms are chills or headache or mild fever and such. Can you please explain to our viewers that some of these symptoms that they're going to get from the COVID vaccine are symptoms that they can also get from vaccines that have already been out that we currently take now?
Yes, that's so true. And one of the things when I made a presentation to the Liberian Ministers Association that Dan Tennis talked about is that almost all vaccines, I mean, the original real vaccines, we use the terminology they call attenuated, which means weakened. It's almost like giving you a mild form of the disease. So that means to say if the disease causes chills, fevers, and headaches, and things like those. So it's understandable if this is a mild form of the disease, because unless you give some mild representative of the disease, your body cannot build up the antibodies to it. So your body not getting a foreign entity in it, and the body recognizes it and then mounts a defense to protect itself. So these fevers and chills and headaches and nausea and all these other things are just a response. So it's almost like a positive thing, I told them, rather than if you take it and you don't get any symptoms. That you may take it and not get any symptoms at all, but it's almost like a affirmation that this vaccine is working if you do get some mild symptoms. And so like almost all the vaccines, even pediatric vaccines, we always tell them, get children Tylenol because your child may get 1, 2, 3, 4. So in other words, many vaccines have side effects because the nature of the vaccine is normal to produce these side effects. And so I think when they know ahead of time what to expect, that helps.
Thank you, Dr. Devine, for breaking down the science of
Thank
that.
you. Yeah, I think a lot of the problems what we're seeing here is a lot of misinformation going on. So the best way to combat misinformation is education. So thank you for educating us on the side effects of COVID-19. But what would you say? I want to open this next question up to everyone. What would you guys say to the people who don't think that getting vaccinated will make a difference at all? Those people who think that, I'm just going
We
to catch
use
COVID-19 at some
the
point.
terminology they call attenuated. We
Think that excuse me. Okay, I'll continue. So what do you guys say to those people who don't think that getting vaccinated it makes any difference at all? They're just thinking I'm going to get herd immunity. We're all going to be, immune like the average yearly flu. What do you say to those people who don't think it's necessary for them to get vaccinated at all?
This is Mrs. Hunter from MCFS. Temple University's Trauma-Informed Workforce Initiative against vaccine hesitancy shows us just how important it is to inform our immigrant population the magnitude of what we're faced with. If we all look at what's happening now, there's an increase. And not just an increase, but the children who, in the beginning, we were told were protected from, contracting this illness, they are now the ones who are piling and lining the halls of pediatric hospitals' wings, and the list goes on every time you turn on the news. So even if you don't think you need it, think about the child, the 1-year-old or the 9-month-old who's struggling to breathe because maybe because of political ideology. Some parent felt, I'm not going to take it because it is my right not to take this vaccine. I don't have to take it. But when your child is strapped to a vent, or you're the one who's strapped to a vent, and your wife and children have to be looking through the window at you, now you're backtracking and say, I wish I could have done it differently. I know we talked about herd immunity earlier when Mrs. Kamara talked, and Dr. Divine has broken down the science behind this thing here. But for me, and I think the question you asked earlier was, what made you get vaccinated? I have children, younger children. My youngest is 10 years old. I suffered too much to have brought my child into this world, to see my child struggling to breathe, because I felt I'm strong enough and my religious belief is strong enough. My faith in God is strong